I am Pamela Marr, the board liaisons to the Social Responsibility, Music, and Worship Committees. I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist congregation. We are a religious community who commit ourselves to diversity. We hope to nourish human differences, those of gender, race, age, ability, sexual orientation, political views, culture, class, and religious belief. Welcome to all who treasure freedom of conscience and the search for truth. We promise to do our best to provide you a spiritual home. We extend a special welcome to our visitors today. We hope you will follow our UUC Facebook page and stay tuned for other events such as Wonderful Wednesdays and Sunday morning meditation. There are religious exploration classes for adults and small groups for support and interest, like book club. Also, families can follow our UUC Religious Exploration Facebook page. There are religious exploration classes for 4K through 9th grade and youth group every Wednesday online for middle school and high school. We are so glad you joined us today.
Good morning. I am Karen Hirsch, serving this morning as Worship Associate. Thank you for joining our online service today. Our opening words are an ancient Sanskrit poem attributed to Kalidasa, written in the 4th century Common Era. This piece was the first reading we did together every Sunday in this congregation 50 years ago. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Come, let us worship together.
Lighting the chalice. We light our flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In the search for truth, may we be just. In the search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace. Nice. Elizabeth McAster.
Checking on my plot in the community garden early June. Saw the first sulfur butterfly, I think a little wing. They don't sit still long. The first dragonflies are like tiny helicopters, only beautiful, escorting me. Intricately delicate, not man-made, not mechanical. Could have been damselflies. Either way, they were scarcely visible. The kale was up in tiny, overcrowded huddles. I planted too many seeds in one bunch. Actually, I confess, they kept falling out of the packet. One bean sprout has broken ground. The tomato starts are settling in nicely. Dare I say it? Almost no weeds. The skate park kids never bother me. I need to bring the shears and clean up the rough stuff around the fence. I said I would. Looks like someone cut off a little bush, but it fell on one of the marigolds I put in corners for cheeriness. In the half plot next to that, an onion plant is growing rogue from last year's leftovers, even after the city came in and tilled everything. In the parking lot, a woman was bringing stencils to repaint the bilingual activities for children on the walk down by the fishing pier. I saw an osprey dive toward the lake, but it never reappeared. Must have flown down under the rise in the ground, over where they cut down so many trees trying to obliterate an invasive species. Last season's morning glory vines intertwined in the chain link are yellowed and stiff now. I used to water every day it didn't rain. Now I know better, not to overdo it. Now, if the voles underground eat away the heart of the beets before I ever pull them, I'll understand their hunger. I won't set traps. We're all just trying to get by. This is how, now, I'll garden.
Now is the time in our service where we share joys and concerns. You may write your joy or concern in the chat, and I will read them aloud in this circle of care. We will have a moment of silence now while you share your joys and concerns. Kathy Ryder says that Thursday she leaves for a family wedding. Get to see lots of family, including my grandbaby, Dell. Andy Swanson says our dog Casey had his second visit with an oncologist this week. He has mast cell tumors in his liver and spleen, as well as on his skin. We are left with the question of when to say goodbye. It's a hard thing, Andy. Marcia says, my daughter-in-law's mother passed away Wednesday a.m. Hard time for her. I'll light this candle for the joys and concerns, both spoken and unspoken. Our closing words for joys and concerns is by James Byla Blake. And if you would like, it would be fine for you to read the words that are in the chat. Love is a spirit of this church and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. That out too. And now I think it's me. Yeah, so. Yeah. There.
Good morning. The topic for this morning is the spirit of the out of doors. And when I reflected on that and thought about how important it has been to me in my whole life, I thought of two things that were really the reason why, I think. One is a place where I grew up, and the other is important people in my life who have shared their enjoyment with the out of doors. The place I grew up was on the edge of town. There were fields behind me, fields across the street. There was a farm down at the end of the street with a wonderful creek that flowed through it. And at that time, children had more freedom. I don't ever remember asking my mother, telling my mother where I was going, or her telling me to be careful, or I just went. And I had a friend who I did these things with. So behind in the fields, there was a huge elm tree up at the top of the hill, and I loved that tree. It was by itself, very tall and majestic. And there had been a farm there, and there was a large clump of lilacs. So in the spring, you could go into the center of the lilacs and just sit in there with the blossoms around you. We could dig. I don't know who this land belonged to. I never asked. We just did things. Across the street, there was a clay hill where we took clay out of the hill and molded things. And the creek at the end that flowed through the farm, I don't know if the farmer was aware that we were there or not, but we would build dams, my friend Carol and I, and wade and just play in that creek. And then her father was one of those crucial people in my life. She called him Herbie. And Herbie would take Carol and her older brother and sister and I out on the weekends. I don't know where the woods were, but we went. And if you fell in the creek, you just kept on going because Herbie didn't stop. And he knew all the names of the spring wildflowers. He knew where there was an Osage and orange tree, flying squirrels. And I remember that he pointed out trailing arbutus, and I think I've only seen it one other time in my life. But Herbie was very crucial to me. And Carol and I, as we grew up, continued to go down to the creek all the time and build fires in the field next door at night and roast apples. And at a time in junior high, when girls were doing other things, we were still going down to the creek. We didn't tell them that we did, but we did. And I think the other thing that became very important in my life was water, lakes, and rivers. And that was marrying my husband, Ted. He had been born in Chicago in an apartment on the beach on Lake Michigan. And he was in the water very early. And then a few years later, they moved to a village of Lamont in Michigan on the Grand River, about a half hour from Lake Michigan. And when he was probably 12 or 13, he had a small motorboat, and so did his friend. And they would take that motorboat down the river to Lake Michigan. They just did it. And all the time that he was growing up, the water was important to him. And so when we got married, it became important to me in a way that it would not have had I not married him. Our first date was on Lake Michigan, and we often were there. And then as we grew and our children got older, every week, probably a couple times a week, Ted would call me from work and say, let's go to the lake. So then I would put whatever we were having for supper in a box and we would go to the lake and swim and eat supper. So we went to Gull Lake in Michigan and Kalamazoo and Gun Lake in Berry County, Lake Wingra in Madison, and Lake Altoona in Eau Claire. And besides that, of course, we camped and swam, and we had a series of boats on the Mississippi River, and we would camp on the Dredge Islands and kayak in the sloughs where there were beautiful yellow lotus blossoms and red cardinal flowers. And once we canoed, a couple times we canoed down the Chippewa from Eau Claire to the Mississippi, camping on the beaches. So that continued to be important. And one time we saw a lot that we liked on Lake Eau Claire just by chance, and we built a house there and lived for 30 years on the Eau Claire River. And there were, to live on the river, there were just so many things: the osprey, the eagles, otters coming up through the ice in the winter, sandhills doing their mating dance. I just remember so many special things. Some only happened once. Some we did often. If it was warm, like it has been this summer, we would swim 3 times a day. And then often canoe down to Lake Altoona when the sun was setting and see the sunset. And then canoe back upriver and see the moon rise over the marsh by our house. Once we even paddled down from Big Falls at night when there was supposed to be a full moon. We got all the way home before the moon actually got over the trees, but it was a rare experience. So that was a very special thing. Then when Ted died 5 years ago, I stayed for a year, but I couldn't stay any longer. So a friend of mine said, there's a house that I think will be coming on the market on Putnam Drive, and the creek is behind it. I think you should move there. And so I followed her advice, and with lots of help from family and friends, I did move there, and I live there now. I'm 86 now. There are many things I can't do anymore, but I have a big garden of sorts, and the woods behind, and the creek. And often in the late afternoon, I go down and sit in the chair there and just watch the trees move. I remember reading John Muir when he said that he climbed a tree in a storm, and how trees look stationary, but they're not, because once the wind blows, they move all over. So I sit and watch often in the afternoon. And it's just, I feel very fortunate to have lived the places I have and have known the people who have shared their enjoyment of the out of doors with me.
Walking music. An odd octave of juncos kept pace with me as I plodded along a stretch of the river trail. Spurting from tree to tree, the round black notes of their heads kept catching my eye over and over again, leapfrogging in inky relay, a melody appearing, then reappearing on a branchy score, accompanying me as if they were dolphins or porpoises arcing in the water alongside some catch, assuming this is the party, spelling out free with their bodies in their swimming, movement saying how maybe we all could learn to thread the above, the below. Or maybe they meant to somehow mimic those white balls bouncing above the lyrics on Sing Along with Mitch 1960s TV that helped you come to grips with the gist of the music so that everyone could give voice to at least the catchy chorus, though you felt your way along the verses too. Having kenned the first one, the rest fell into place, and you thought, being a child, that through the miracle of this broadcast, the whole world might just be singing with you. In the forest. At the visitor center, the solar system depicted in a line of fabric balloons is strung across the back of the learning space. The ranger, in a cheery mood, highlights his favorite trails, ends up mentioning all of them, estimates how long it will take to traipse along them, notes what we might see. Though my friend and I both have the same map open in our hands, we can't find the trailhead until we ask 3 people and triangulate. Then we're in the woods. So many dragonflies. White pine, birch, oak, and other trees we aren't sure the names of. I almost step on a leopard skin frog, not seeing it till it jumps. Then I can't make out where it is, it's so camouflaged. Both male and female black swallowtail butterflies sun at path's edge. We skirt the river. The weather's good. A group of field scientists with nets, clipboards, and sample boxes break for lunch down by the lake. We do too, only at a pub in the village. Then we head out of town again, park on the side of some county road, my friend sure this time exactly where it is. A great blue heron sails over us into the sun. We hike in. It's not long till we hear the roar of waterfall, a fairly steep climb, avoiding poison ivy. At the top, a makeshift shelter of interwoven limbs. Going back, down, we choose our steps carefully. We breathe it all in. I try to make a movie of it with my phone, but it's too big. The tiny device can't capture it. I resolved to just remember being there in the forest, one with the woods for a while, invigorated and calmed, awe deepened, adventurized, comforted, taken in, sweaty, thirsty, happy, alive.
Hi, I'm Karen Voss, and I live here on a rural 85 acres just south of Eau Claire. First, I'd like to say that every word of Karen Peters' reflections on her connection to the out of doors resonates very deeply with me. It was a beautiful reading. My approach is going to be a little different. I'm going to tell you a story. So when I find myself longing to be somewhere else, where is it in my mind's that my mind's eye takes me? To places where I'm filled with inner peace and wonder. I have been to the depths of the Grand Canyon as stars spark in the slice of sky above me, and kayak floated on dawn-fogged, glass-smooth water at a beloved family cabin. Most often, my inner compass points toward home, where the bur oaks and the big blue stem and the call of cranes anchor me to the rural land I know best, just south of Eau Claire. Today, I'm thinking about the cows and how they have integrated themselves into my sense of wonder and connection to this piece of land that I love. 2.5 months ago, 3 stately ladies, British whites, stepped off the trailer and into our sometime wetland field. They know this place. This is their 3rd summer here. They settled down to the business of eating succulent green shoots of reed canary grass, a wetland invasive species. That is their job and why they are here, although this is of no concern to them. One cow is mostly black. Her top line is white, like a snow-capped ridge on her dark body, and hence her name, Regina. Another has a black and white roan face that gives way to palm-sized black spots on her neck and torso, so her name is Peppercorn. Sweet Freckles is all white, with thumbprint-sized spots of dark skin beneath her fur that cover her body. All 3 are wide loads with babies on board, not due until mid-July. Independence Day afternoon took us to Osseo to hear the music of 2 Rivers, a favorite group of ours. Returning home, a routine scan of the pasture revealed our first surprise, a newborn white calf with a dark chocolate chip nose and ears. Checking the pasture more closely, we were shocked to see not one, but two calves. Regina had twins. Chip and Claire, both heifers, have names in honor of our two rivers in Eau Claire. Twin calves come with worries. Will Regina accept them both? Will they both be strong enough to nurse? And will they get enough to eat? These small, early born girls were soon both nursing strongly, and Regina was mothering them both. These are two small and mighty miracles of the pasture. 2.5 weeks later, Peppercorn birthed a sturdy bull calf, a miniature clone of herself, and he is Buckshot, short for Bucky, Bucky for short. In the pre-dawn hours of the next day, Freckles had her own white calf named Cedar, in keeping with the river theme. Healthy as she seems, Cedar is not nursing. She suckles on her mom's neck and flank and never finds a teat. Intervention is needed. With the cow's owner, Ashley, we herd Freckles to an improvised squeeze chute and guide Cedar to a teat. Success. But will this lesson stick with her? No. The following day was a repeat of the previous. Mother and daughter needed to return to the home farm for specialized nursing care. Then, as day ended, both of them still in the pasture, Cedar found a teat and did not forget again. Cedar is our third small and mighty miracle of the pasture. Several days ago, I tractor hauled 100 gallons of water to the trough in the upper pasture, a process that gives me quiet time to spend watching this small herd. I sit in the grass and calves peek out between the legs of cows, assimilating the shape of a sitting human into their worldview. They venture a few steps in my direction. Small calf heads butt their way between wide bovine bellies and 12 legs that move restlessly, stomping away flies. Yet not a calf is ever stepped on or hurt in any way, not even as newborns. This is the queendom of aunties. They may butt each other with their double bowling ball heads, yet the calves are always safe. As the water tank fills, I notice something that I have never seen before. Regina's twins take turns nursing on Freckles' teats, and I am amazed. In the past, auntie cows have always drawn the line at nursing each other's calves. And in following days, I confirm that this is not a one-time case of mistaken identity. It is a new behavior amongst this little herd. All 4 calves are filling out their bony frames, and the twins are catching up in size. As sunset nears, the small gang cavorts through the pasture under the placid and watchful eyes of cows. I'm calling this the 4th small and mighty miracle of the summer in this pasture. I am so at home here, sitting on the edge of the pasture, tall wool grass bending behind me, a pair of cranes calling as they wade in the shallow wetlands nearby. When I find myself longing to be somewhere else, this is where my mind's eye often takes me, although not exclusively. Other places I hold dearest nearly always are places of natural wonder, large or small, that I have shared with close family members, the joy and wonder amplified by the sharing. Where do you find that inner peace and wonder in the out of doors? We all have stories to tell. This story of the cows is just my story for today. Tomorrow, I could certainly tell you another one.
This is the time in our service for giving. With gratitude for the abundance in our lives, we give to help people in need and to support the work of this congregation. The 50-50 Share the Plate for July and August is the Chippewa Valley LGBTQ+ Center. You may donate online at eauclaire.com or text to give at 84321. And while we're having the quiet time for giving, you will hear Danny, David, and Amanda singing a song about nature.
Yeah, turn it and then the tail or the light, you're extinguished. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. By Elizabeth Sale Jones.
Our closing words today are called Deep Peace, adapted from Gaelic runes. A Gaelic blessing. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. Deep peace of the gentle night to you. Moon and stars pour their healing light to you. Deep peace of the infinite peace to you.